So this is the relationship video on Bhava Kuta. So the Bhava Kuta matching brings in 7 points. So it's a very large point-giving Kuta. Now it shows the Rashis in relationship to each other. Now planets should be in the 1st and 7th house, either joined or in the opposite houses. They should be in the 3rd and the 11th house, which is called a sextile in Western astrology, or in the 4th and 10th house, which is called the square. Now, for some reason, according to Bhava Kuta, they shouldn't be in the trines, which are the same element. That's said to be difficult. So if they're in 5-9 or 2-12 or 6-8 relationship, then it's supposed to bring difficulty. So there can be, you know, again, it's not clear, and I've always been a little bit curious as to why it doesn't include the 5-9, which is the same element. Like, for instance, one person has their moon in Leo, the other person has it in Sagittarius, while they're both sort of fiery. So it may be an extension of that principle that we just talked about, which was the Nadi Kuta, because the Nadi Kuta was also based on element, based on the Ayurvedic elements. You know, you had watery, windy, or fiery Nadi, or temperament, and you would have, and they're supposed to be different. So with Bhava Kuta, it's the same thing. Whereas if you have the same element, which would be the 5-9, then it's said to not be favorable. Nor is it 2-12, which is when they're right next to each other, or 6-8 when they're very in conjunct each other. So opposites are very good. I find, and you have to understand something. I've done thousands of relationship astrology readings. If you don't know, I've been in full-time practice since 2004. Before that, I did quite a lot of readings for a couple of years before that, but I've been in full-time practice for more than 10 years. So I've looked at thousands and thousands of couples matching. So I'm not just kind of, you know, sort of making stuff up. I have a lot of experience with this. So opposites, this is the opposites attract thing. So I'm going to talk about each of those aspects. When they're joined, obviously, it's a very similar kind of mentality. Now, certain nakshatras, when it's the same nakshatra, it's supportive. Other times it's not, which is a little bit different. And it's actually the Rakshasha nakshatras, like if they both have Ardra or Vishaka or the Rakshashas, then the same nakshatra is actually favored. If not, then you want the man to be before the woman in order to maintain Sri Dirga, right? That first principle of the shortest distance to the woman. But in general, especially as it relates to Bhava Kuta, when they both have the moon in the same sign, you get 7 points in Bhava Kuta. And with the opposite also. So I find opposites to be very good. But what opposites do is they bring you in contrast with your, you know, with your opposite. So that, you know, brings about a certain dynamism that can be difficult as you process and as you integrate this opposite part of yourself. But that's what relationships are. So it's a strong glue. And one of the things with relationships and with these things is to see if they're going to stay together, if you're going to stay together and be happy. But part of it, one of the first things is, are you going to stay together? Are you going to keep going back at it? Again, when it's 2-12, it's not so much. If it's 6-8, it's very hard. It's like, you know, 2-12 is like the elements right next to each other, like fire and earth, earth and air, air and water, water and fire. They don't share a lot. 6-8 is the same thing. Then you don't have hardly anything in common, like Capricorn and Cancer. Or no, I'm sorry, Capricorn and like Gemini. One is mutable air, one is cardinal earth. They're like, they're very different style. So 6-8, 2-12 especially are not so good. But, you know, when it's the same, it's good. When it's 7th and opposite, it also brings a lot of glue because we keep trying to figure out that puzzle. When it's 4-10, again, it's a square. It winds up being the same modality, which means two cardinal signs, 2 fixed signs, 2 mutable signs. That's what 4-10 is. Either 4, one is 4 and the other is 10. And again, you want to have the man be in the 4 and the woman be the 10, because then the man's energy gets to the woman first. But 4-10, even if it's opposite, even if the woman is 4 and the man is 10, you would still get 7 points in Bhava Kuta because it's a different thing. So the Bhava Kuta, the houses work this way. And you're really looking at an emphasis being put on these squares and oppositions. Like, for instance, an opposition is 1-7. In the middle of the oppositions is the squares. So you go 1, 4, 7, 10, just like the angles in a house. So you're seeing what angles are is structure. So if it's 1, 4, 7, or 10, it holds together the placement. So then the Bhava Kuta is strong. 4-10, that, again, 10th house is about action, with each other. And so, one is 4 from the other and one is 10 from the other, then there's going to be a, desire to manifest action and also feeling, because the 4-10 axis is about inner and outer strength. 4th house is about inner strength, 10th house is about outer strength. And these things play out, by the way. All of these nuances are there. This is why you'd like it to be the man, the shortest distance is from the man, and it's 4th house, and the woman 10th house, then the man is invested in the woman's inner strength, for instance, like her emotional support. Again, it still works if it's the shortest distances to the man from the woman, but then it's the woman who's invested in the man's emotional well-being, right? And it can feel, it's not as good for the relationship. It might be good for his external life, for his career. And again, by the way, he would be in the 10th from the woman. So again, that would be, that would be beneficial to his, power and his career. So again, you would like to see where it's, where all of the gender principles are also in line. But even if they're not, you would get 7 points of Bhava Kuta matching when it's 1-7, 4-10, or 3-11. And again, 3-11, it just means one is 3 and then the other is 11. So 3-11 is the midway point of a trine. So, 3 houses and then 11 houses to the other one. The 3rd house is about our desires. It's about speech and communication. And the 11th house is about ambitions and ideals and goals. So those things are also supported. It's the same gender, but a different element. So it would be like if one person is a fire sign, the other one would be air. That would be the 3-11. And so you can see those things will be beneficial. So 1st, 7th, 3rd, 11, 4, 10 are beneficial Bhava Kuta. 5-9, 6-8, 2-12 is not. And again, the only thing I can infer about 5-9 is that it would be the same element, which affirms another principle, the same one that we described in Nadi Kuta. I'll be honest with you though, when I see that people have the same, like if I see that they have a low overall point score, like let's say they have an 18, but they don't have Bhava Kuta because of the trine, I don't pay that much attention to it. Because again, it's 7 points, so if you don't have Bhava Kuta matching, it's actually hard to get the 20 points. You can get maybe 18, and then if you would have had Bhava Kuta, it would be 25. Let's say it's 18, but the moons are 2-12 from each other. I'm not so happy about that. Or it's 18, but the moons are 6-8 from each other. I'm not so happy about that. But if it's 18 and the moons are 5-9, like they have 18 Kuta points, and the man's moon is in Leo and the woman's moon is in Sagittarius, which also means that the Sri Dirgha is right, I'm going to look and say, well, you know what? The points are low, but this is why. And I don't consider that such a big deal. Again, so this is how you need to really apply the kutas. It's so indiscriminate usually. Astrologers, it's very indiscriminate. And by the way, there are a lot of exceptions that I'm not talking about here. Like, Nadi Kuta is okay. If you have the 212 or 68 or the 59, but for instance, you have good Nadi Kuta, that's one of the things that offset the blemish. If you have good Nadi Kuta, it actually overcomes it. Also, if the lords of the Janma Rashis or the Navamsha Rashis are the same. So let's say that you don't have Bhava Kuta matching, but you have Nadi Kuta. So the Nadi Kutas are different. So this is why I think this is one of the reasons for 5-9 is that the first modification is Nadi Kuta. So if they have a different Nadi and they have the same rulers of the Janma Lagna or Navamsha Lagnas, then you can forget it. There are other ways to overcome the blemish of Bhava Kuta as well. Each one of them have these blemishes. And again, it would take me forever to go through each one of these, but I actually have courses where I go over this and I explain all of this. But in this case, I'm just going over the general principles. But Bhava Kuta, 7 points. And it shows, the Bhavas actually show the capacity to get things done, to be productive as a couple. Because Bhavas have to do with our worldly life and the things we manifest. I guess I should have said that first, right? So the Bhava Kuta really shows, like, when it's not there, then people just don't, they just can't seem to work with each other, or they don't seem to work together, or they don't seem to feel like they have a plan. And again, this is why 1-7, the angular houses are very supported. Because angles are like, okay, let's build something of a structure, of a foundation, right? That's what the angular houses are. 1, 4, 7, 10 are good. And then also 3-11. 11th house is about ambition. 3rd house is about, desires. So this is the foundation of the Bhava Kuta. And again, this is the stuff you tell a couple when it's not there. You don't just say, oh, you don't get that, your score is 15, so no. Like, well, what does that mean? You have to understand what each one of the kutas show and why they show it, why the blemish isn't there, what the nature of the blemish is, what it's going to say about the couple. Because people that want to be together, no one wants to break up once they're married. Especially if they have kids or whatever. This is what you see in real life. When I have people that are married and their kuta scores are low, they don't want to break up usually. They want to try to fix it. Especially if they got families and kids. You have to know what to tell them. And again, you have to, it's not just advice, but what first happens, before you can give any advice that anyone will listen to, you have to be able to describe the situation accurately. Otherwise, your advice will just be stupid, frankly. So when you'll see what's missing. You'll see, oh, you don't have Bhava Kuta matching. You just don't seem to be able to work together, and da-da-da-da. And so as we go through them, I'll be talking about that as well. I already talked about a few of the others, with the Nadi Kuta, when you see it's not matching, you'll say, you guys just blow everything out of proportion. Or if it's Sri Dirga is not matching, or what's called the Rashi Kuta, if that's not there, then it's like, she's in the initiating role and da-da-da. So that's the important part of it. So the next one will be Gana Kuta, which is quite important as well.